The Club World Cup. So what is that? Chelsea won it recently, didn't they? They beat Palmeiras in the final. Now, 7 teams, 7 clubs contested the Club World Cup. But from 2025, that 7, Martin, is to go to 32. So 32 teams will contest the Club World Cup. That really involves, if you like, the equivalent of Champions League winners from all around the globe. 32 it will comprise of, as opposed to 7. That's from 2025. Basically, that's a World Cup of clubs, isn't it? That's what it comes down to. And then, of course, what do we know? A year after that, in 2026, the World Cup itself is in the USA, Canada and Mexico, and that's to be expanded from 32 to 48.
Yeah, more games, Jim.
Where is this going, Martin?
Well, it's an obvious point that Simon's probably just, shaping his nails to tear into me right now. But I've been saying it for a long time. We need to get around the table and we need to try and keep a limit on the number of games that the players are playing.
Too late for that. Infantino's taken up the cudgel here.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And I think all the players' unions around the world need to get together, Jim, to be at the table of this discussion, because it is now getting to incredible amount of games, isn't it? We're shoehorning a World Cup into the middle of the football season right now. The players will come back, and I'm hearing some lady on the radio the other day at a radio station nearby saying it's a joke. The players will go off on holiday. What holiday? They go straight back to their clubs and straight back to the Premier League. So we need to. We need 4
games in 5 weeks.
We need to actually look at the number of games that the players are playing, and one day I hope surely that will happen, and then common sense will prevail, Jim.
I mean, to be honest, Simon, even you would agree with me on this. Going from 7 when Chelsea won it against Palmeiras to 32 surely is borderline nonsensical from 2025. I mean, can you imagine some of the games in there that teams will play who expect to win?
I agree. I mean, you've got the expansion of the Champions League. I don't agree from the principle of the player welfare. I agree from the point of view that you simply won't have the ability to fit these games in and make it the product that you want to be. This is about money. You have an inordinate amount of faith in unions providing a solution. I mean, the players' union can't even deal with the concussion issues and the Alzheimer's and the dementia that their own members have suffered over years and years and years, and have been dragged kicking and screaming by members of the families of those victims of it. So I have no faith in the unions in football having anything valid to do besides telling people what they won't do. But I do concur that this is a step too far. But this has been brewing for some time. This is about money. This is about FIFA and UEFA, dancing around this huge pot of money, and we've now got a ridiculous situation where you're now advocating for another tournament. Football is where the money is. There's enormous. Look what these World Cups are generating. Yeah. Look what Mexico 26 has been promised to FIFA. 15, 16 billion. That's the reasons why Mexico, Canada and USA got this particular World Cup, because Trump promised this ridiculous amount of money, and so it will be. And here comes the World Club Championship doing the same thing. There does have to be some proper thinking. If you're going to play these amount of games, and one of the arguments that myself and Martin have, and we disagree, but we understand one another's point of view, I think, is that all the money in the game at this moment in time is going to the players. And the reasons why that's the case is because they're the talent.
Right.
But also, by the same token, if they want all the money, then someone's got to pay for it. And that's why there's so many games coming into play. If we're going to keep on expanding the games, there's going to have to be some proper grown-up thinking about how seasons are structured, about when they can have breaks in the winter so that they can recuperate, because at the end of the day, you're going to diminish the quality. And if you diminish the quality, then you'll diminish the demand from the broadcasters, and it'll go back round in a circle. So I do agree.
I think from the player's point of view, though, you want to genuinely, Jim, win everything you go into, and you want to be given a chance to be able to play in every competition you play in. But if we've not got a limit on the number of days in between matches, which we currently really haven't got, then you make it almost impossible for me to take part in all those games. If I was still playing, how would it be possible? Make it possible so you get a sensible break between each match.
I mean, we don't know. Let's be honest. We don't know how that 32-team tournament would shape up. It might actually mean 3 or 4 games. Currently, it means 1 or 2 games playing in the World Club Championship.
Sure.
If you've got 32 teams drawn against one another, then into 16, into 8, into 4, and into 2.
But it usually happens, doesn't it, in and around our FA Cup?
Well, it does. But what we surely to God, as obtuse as FIFA are, they must understand the challenges that are on their doorstep, and they must be able to come up with some viable. Maybe it replaces pre-season tours. But then again, with that in mind, if you're Liverpool and you're Manchester United and you're Arsenal and so on and so forth, you're not going to want to lose your pre-season tours and your revenue spinners, and maybe FIFA will be compensating back as they've done in the World Cup for using their players.
Maybe it's because we're at the business end of the World Cup that Infantino has decided to get in his soapbox and surprise us all. So not only has he said, from 2025, the Club World Cup, which Chelsea won, of course, recently against Palmeiras, will increase from 7 to 32 teams. It's now confirmed. It will increase from 7 to 32 teams competing in the Club World Cup. He has just told us all that he is absolutely convinced that football, / soccer, is now set to become the number one sport in North America.
I don't disagree. It is at certain levels when it translates into the professional game. When you're at college and you're in the scholastic system in America, you can clearly see that soccer, in their terminology, is a dominant sport. It's when it translates into commercial viability for the professional game.
So as a spectator sport, soccer will be bigger in North America than the NFL?
And participation for women, Jim.
I agree as well.
Most played sport in America.
But football. One thing that you do have to remember is that these teams don't have to play in this World Club Championship if they don't want to. It's not mandated. It's not obligatory. They can choose to do it, and their players will have something to say about it, I'm sure.